Let's go live now to columnist at the Daily Telegraph, Miranda Devine. Miranda, good to see you. We've got to start with bad blood. It was amazing to see this all laid out, being involved in the week and the chaos that ensued. To have, clarity so many months on was fascinating in itself. I want to ask you first about, I guess, this idea that Scott Morrison, or at least Scott Morrison's supporters, helped bring down Malcolm Turnbull in a way because they shifted numbers and it was quite a clever trick, really. Is it plausible?
Yeah, good morning, Laura. That story has been doing the rounds for a while, but it was absolutely fascinating to watch last night. David Spears and Sky News have done a brilliant job with Bad Blood, and tonight, New Blood, I can't wait to see. But look, it definitely is plausible. You've got Christopher Pyne there on the record even saying that, he didn't vote, and many of the moderates didn't vote for Julie Bishop, who was in their faction, because everybody, including Malcolm Turnbull, was trying to block Peter Dutton. So people voted very strategically, and certainly, people in Scott Morrison's centre-right faction were pretty canny about the way they directed their votes to ensure their man got up. But I think that's very different from the sort of accusations that have been flying around since August, since that coup, from people who don't like Scott Morrison, saying that, he's got blood on his hands and he's a fraud and he's a phony and he really planned this from the start. I mean, he didn't. It's pretty clear, I think David Spears has made it even more clear that there were, plan Bs going on, which you have to do. And at the same time, I think that Malcolm Turnbull was much happier about Scott Morrison taking over his job than he would have been if Peter Dutton did. And I think ultimately it was better in terms of the coalition's electoral fortunes.
Interesting you say, this story's been around for a while from people that simply don't like Scott Morrison, about him, taking quite a run up to the leadership. But what is fascinating is that those people that don't like Scott Morrison, in my view, and people I've spoken to, they're within the party. So it does show that, there is still some bad blood there. But after the miracle win, it's at least, under the surface and not being spilled for now.
Well, it would be incredible if after a decade of that war between Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott, if there weren't still some bad blood lingering. But at least both men have left the party, they've left Parliament. Right. And so I think those wounds are mainly healing. And look, victory is a very purging, very cleansing event. So he's a winner. And I think nobody is going to, at least publicly or obviously, want to get on the wrong side of him.
No, very right indeed. Now, Israel Folau is on the wrong side of many, but he's on the right side. And you know what? Again, numbers do the talking. About $1 million has been put into his fighting fund. I know where you sit on this, but do you see that this is a difficult issue for some people as well?
Yes, well, it's last time I looked this morning, it was about 1.6 million.
Well, there you go.
So it's just been turbocharged by GoFundMe's very illiberal decision to close his account. Look, it is a difficult decision for everybody, but I think the point is that most people, I certainly don't agree with Israel Folau's characterisation of homosexuals or drunks or idolaters or, fornicators and the rest. You're talking about all of Australia, everybody's a sinner, going to hell. But you don't have to agree with that to be dismayed at his treatment. This is beyond disagreeing with someone. This is actually consigning someone to the scrap heap, saying that not only are you wrong, but you are evil, you are a sinner. It's the sort of moralising and wowserism that Christians used to be accused of is now coming from the progressive left. And Australians don't like that. They don't like moralisers, and they don't like corporates telling them how to live their lives outside work. They really feel that political correctness has become a crushing burden on them, and they're voting with their wallets for Israel Folau, not because they're bigots, not because they're homophobes or even because they're religious. You know, the vast majority of Australians don't even agree with him, but they will donate to his cause because they want to see someone take the fight up to the PC brigade, just like Donald Trump did in the United States. It was part of his great appeal, was that he appealed to the deplorables, who again were sick of political correctness and elites telling them what to do and what to think. And I think Scott Morrison has really vacated the stage on this, and he did that during the election. I understood, really, I guess he had to be pragmatic during the election and not get bogged down with anything that wasn't about tax or Bill Shorten. Yeah. But now, he squibbed it the other day. He said, look, that issue's had too much oxygen. You can understand it's difficult for him. He doesn't want to be seen to be, you know, against LGBTIQ community. But by the same token, I think everybody, it's not about an us or them situation. It's really about freedom to speak your mind and to practice your faith. And the religious freedom legislation that Christian Porter is working on will be crucial.
Yep, and look, it is very divisive because whilst some don't agree with Israel Folau and some do support him, I mean, some are really kind of taken aback as to why a millionaire, a sports person, is actually raising millions of dollars in this fighting fund. Can you understand that too?
Well, I mean, that's a little unfair. He had a $4 million rugby contract which was torn up. He owns, I understand, 3 properties, all heavily mortgaged. You know, rugby players have a very short career. They have to maximise. You know, he's a superstar, and that he very few people are like that. And I don't think Australians begrudge superstars in whatever field they are for doing well. But he's already spent $100,000 of his and his wife's money on legal fees. He's being encouraged to do this by lots of Australians, by the Australian Christian lobby too. It's a test case. I mean, personally, I think he'd be better off just walking away because legal, you know, long-running legal battles are very draining in every way on your mental health and your finances. So he's doing this kind of on behalf of a lot of other people to test our freedoms, and I don't see why he should bankrupt himself to pay the legal fees. On the other hand, we do have to make sure that that money is looked after. We're assured it is, that it's in a trust fund, and also that the lawyers, you know, lawyers, they'll charge as much as they can. So we've kind of got to make sure that the lawyers don't charge too much.
Absolutely. I try not to know lawyers too well, Miranda. Appreciate your time this morning. Speak soon.
Thanks, Laura.